Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm seeing participants joining in, and I'm very pleased to see you all here. We'll be starting in, I think I'll wait maybe one more minute. But in the meanwhile, while we wait for other participants to join from around the Asia and Asia Pacific region, we have I've prepared a short poll. My name is Ana Maria Kleymeier. I work with the Climate Clean Air Coalition. I'll be your host for this webinar today. So as more participants are joining, I'm going to share a short poll and would be grateful if you could help take a moment to answer these questions. So you should see on your screen a small window pop up. Our first question is whether you are directly involved in preparation of NDC 3.0, so the upcoming iteration of the NDCs. And if you're indirectly involved, perhaps you work at an institution that is providing advice or consulting or research information to a government, then you could put indirectly. And may I please ask if anyone has their microphone on, could you please turn your microphone off? Thank you. So no one's interested in answering the poll, or is it perhaps that the poll is not visible? If you're involved in helping prepare NDC, you can click on the little circle next to yes. If you're not involved, no. And if you're indirectly involved, you can click on indirectly. No takers for the poll. Maybe it's not showing up on people's screen. Yeah, I hear someone say they do not see the poll. Well, my technical abilities are not, they stop at, oh, now you can see this question number 2. Perhaps you were involved in preparing or in implementing a previous NDC. And so you can click in the circles whether you prepared, implemented, both or neither. Still not seeing any answers to the poll, so oh, here we go. Yep, some answers are coming in. Thanks. So some indirectly involved and others not involved, and others who cannot see the poll. Okay, well, let's try one more question and see if you have the team screen open. It should pop up. Question number 3: how familiar are you with the non-CO₂ pollutants? Very familiar. They are my passion. One of the participants has just suggested if you look in the chat and you scroll up, maybe the questions show up there in the poll, for the poll for some. So very familiar, they're your passion. Familiar, but it's not something that you focus on much. And or not familiar at all. These non-CO₂ pollutants are new to me. So, okay, well, I think I've gained a little bit of time to get those who are able to come to this webinar with us today. So good morning and good afternoon again to all of you who are with us. My name is Ana Maria Kleymeier, and I am a senior consultant with the Climate Clean Air Coalition. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. And we're going to I'm going to start off sharing a video from the head of the Climate Clean Air Coalition, who is unable to join us because it's the middle of the night for her, but she prepared a video for us that that I'll share with you. So hopefully you're able to see the screen, and I will press play, and here's Martina.
Hello, I'm Martina Otto, the head of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition Secretariat. And on behalf of the coalition, I would like to welcome you to this workshop on how to integrate super pollutants into the next round of the nationally determined contributions NDC 3.0. The importance of cutting super pollutants, and particularly the opportunity that we have over the next 5 years, because they are crucial. We heard from scientists already that we might hit over the next 5 years 1.5 degrees already. So any measures that can help us to curb warming in the near term are actually really critical, are our rescue straw, so to say, to help reduce the risk of hitting dangerous climate tipping points. We hope to be able to spur this now for the NDC 3.0. With that, thank you, and have a good workshop.
Thank you, Martina, for joining us from Paris and for sharing those words with us via video. And so now, with that warm welcome from Martina, I will begin the first part of our presentation. One moment as I open up the presentation for us to see. I hope everyone can see this opening screen. So this presentation, and today we will be talking about how to include non-CO₂ pollutants in enhanced NDCs. So the next round of NDCs, NDC 3.0. We have some special guests today from various partner organizations of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, and I'm happy to welcome them to be with us today. Just a quick overview of what we'll be doing in the next 60 minutes or so. Now that you have my introduction, this presentation will focus on just some general background to give some of the main elements and definitions, so that we're all on a even playing field around the concepts related to non-CO₂ pollutants. Then hopefully we'll hear from our special guest from Cambodia, who will describe the experience that Cambodia has had with support from the CCAC in integrating these pollutants into their past NDCs, and some lessons and what they're planning for the next round of NDCs. We'll then afterwards hear from the Clean Air Fund, and Harinam Roy from the Clean Air Fund will join us to talk about what that organization is doing to support countries, and to give us a special focus on the benefits to air quality and health of addressing this category of pollutants in NDCs. Then I have a short video from the NDC partnership. Also, they were unable to join live because of the difference in time zone, but we had them on the webinar earlier today. So I have a video from NDC partnership. They also have some very important and useful tools that will help countries as you're preparing your NDC. And then we'll come back, and I am excited to be able able to share with you this very special day and moment where we will officially launch the guidance that the CCAC has prepared to countries for supporting their inclusion of non-CO₂ pollutants in your NDCs, and I'll talk a little bit about that guidance. Okay. So, brief introduction. Let's take a moment here just to understand this term, non-CO₂ pollutants. This category of pollutants include all of the short-lived climate pollutants, as well as other potent greenhouse gas emissions, such as nitrous oxide. So you notice that I say pollutants and not gases because one category, one of these pollutants, and some of them are not specifically greenhouse gases, but like black carbon, they are a form of pollutant that does contribute to climate change as well as to other impacts on health and food security. You may be familiar under the Kyoto Protocol, which is part of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, but is now phased out as we have replaced it with the Paris Agreement. Under the Kyoto Protocol, we used to talk about the basket of gases, and that was a list of specific greenhouse gases. Under the Paris Agreement, the agreement says that countries should focus on including all greenhouse gases. So the non-CO₂ greenhouse gases, what would be all the rest of those gases include methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride. That's a big mouthful, but you may be familiar with some of these. We'll talk a little bit about what the sources are, especially of those that make up the largest quantity of greenhouse gases and therefore have the biggest impact on the climate. The short-lived climate pollutants, if you're not familiar with the term, SLCPs, have that name because they have a very, very short atmospheric lifetime. They stay in the atmosphere for only a few days up to about 15 years, unlike carbon dioxide, which stays for hundreds of years up to 1,000 years. Nitrous oxide also stays for a very long time. But the SLCPs, methane, black carbon, the HFCs, and tropospheric ozone stay in the atmosphere for a very short time, which means that when we cut those gases, the positive effect of mitigating those gases happens very quickly in the atmosphere because those that have already been released dissipate. Another term for the non-CO₂ pollutants that you'll hear in many forums and contexts is superpollutants, and sometimes I'll use that interchangeably during the presentation. So when I say superpollutants, super because they are very potent, very powerful. So just 4 simple reasons, and if you remember anything from this presentation, I'd like you to leave with these 4 simple reasons to focus on non-CO₂ pollutants. The first reason is that they reduce near-term warming, and the next slide I'll explain what that means. The second reason is that when combined with carbon dioxide mitigation, the mitigation of non-CO₂ plus CO₂ support the long-term temperature goals of the Paris Agreement. In other words, keeping us well below 2 degrees. The third reason is that focusing on these pollutants prevents the chance of triggering dangerous tipping points and making climate change so much more difficult to address and to solve. And the fourth reason is that addressing these pollutants generates multiple co-benefits to health and human safety, food security, energy security, and sustainable development. And Arindam will tell us more about that, especially a deep dive into the benefits for human health. Non-CO2 mitigation can reduce warming in the near term, and it's the most powerful solution to do so. I'm sure that in many of your countries, you're already experiencing the warming that we're feeling worldwide, as the world has already warmed an average of 1.2 degrees around the globe, and the impacts and the effects of that warming we're feeling everywhere in the world. And I'm sure each one of you has examples, if you want to type in the chat, examples of how you're experiencing climate change. Please do that. Share that with others. I'm sure you know it's helpful and interesting to know about those effects as they evolve. Here in this slide, what we're seeing in this graph is that if the world continues its business as usual, producing the greenhouse gases that we've always been producing, it's not just highly likely, but guaranteed that that average temperatures will go beyond 3 degrees warming. And we know that from the science, the IPCC reports and other science, that surpassing 2 degrees will put the world in a nearly inhabitable space with great danger to human health and ecosystems. And I think many of you joining today are from the Pacific Islands. I've seen a few names even that I recognize. It's wonderful to see you. And for Pacific Islands and other vulnerable communities around the world, a greater than 3% temperature rise is a very, very terrifying possibility. With only carbon dioxide reductions, still the world is likely to increase average temperature rise by about 2.75 degrees Celsius, according to the science. But if we combine carbon dioxide mitigation with the non-carbon dioxide, non-CO2 pollutant mitigation, that is where we have a very, very strong chance of staying under 2 degrees and keeping 1.5 within reach. As Martina told us in her welcome, the scientists have already explained to us in the most recent IPCC reports that most pathways will take us past 1.5 degrees, what's called overshoot. But what we would like, and especially by addressing non-CO2 pollutants and the near-term positive effects, what we'd like to see is that overshoot be very, very short and be very, very small, so that the impacts are not as great, especially on our most vulnerable communities. You'll sometimes hear, and I believe more and more, the non-CO2 pollutants referred to as the other half of warming, because in fact, these pollutants contribute, because they are super pollutants and very highly powerful pollutants, much more potent per ton than CO2. They contribute to nearly half, if not more, of current warming and future warming. It's estimated that 0.6 degrees Celsius of global warming could be avoided by mitigating those pollutants. And remember, because most of them are short-lived, except for nitrous oxide, because most of them are short-lived, those effects, we would feel those effects before 2050, so in the very near term, and those are life-saving opportunities. The sources of CO2 pollutants are varied, but they are similar across some sectors. And you'll see here that methane and black carbon, for example, both have fossil fuel source. And then the hydrofluorocarbons come from refrigeration, air conditioning, aerosols, and some pharmaceuticals. Tropospheric ozone, however, is not directly emitted into the atmosphere. It's emitted when sunlight combines with methane, and it is also a potent and a rapidly increasing non-CO₂ pollutant that we want to pay attention to. You'll see in that strip or the column down the middle that the lifetime of these pollutants is, as I mentioned, days, weeks, to just a few years. The impacts of those pollutants, however, especially if we look at black carbon and methane, are not just global. They don't just affect the atmosphere, but they can be regional and local. And those local effects we'll look at in a moment. Those are the impacts on health, on food security, because these pollutants impact agriculture and ecosystems. Over here on the right, you'll see, as I've mentioned, that nitrous oxide, or N2O, stays in the atmosphere for centuries. And carbon dioxide also stays for centuries, as I've mentioned. So why do we want to reduce these? As it's not just the benefits to the climbing, that avoiding 0.6 degrees of warming, but there are additional benefits to the climate of reducing these pollutants. In the NDC guidance, when you get into the details of that, you'll see how, for example, reductions in black carbon can help protect snow and ice, and as a result of the reduced warming, we can reduce the rate of sea level rise and reduce also the exposure to deadly heat. And some of you may be familiar with the Secretary General's recent report on extreme heat and the dangers that many countries are already facing because of rising temperatures. But reducing these pollutants also can contribute to health benefits and food security benefits. 2.4 million avoided premature deaths annually. That is just a shocking number. Could be avoided by reducing these pollutants that are harmful to health. And Arendam from Clean Air Fund will go into that in more detail. But as I mentioned, these pollutants also impact ecosystems and agriculture, and so the science and the economics behind addressing the non-CO₂ pollutants indicate that the world could avoid 52 million tons of crop losses and save $33 billion worth of finance due to benefits to health, and then therefore the workers, and also preventing food loss and other economic impacts that will happen if we do not address this category of pollutants. So why are we here talking about the NDCs? As many of you know, the Paris Agreement, signed in 2015, requires countries to produce nationally determined contributions every 5 years, and requires that every 5 years those contributions, or those pledges that countries make, are stronger or enhanced, that they are more ambitious in every cycle. We're approaching the third cycle, and that those NDCs are due in February of 2025. From what I hear, that's a soft target. In other words, that's what countries should aim for. But sometime during 2025 is when most countries will be submitting their new NDC 3.0. What's different about these NDCs is that there is more specificity beyond what countries included, or what we saw in the Paris Agreement. But the global stocktake and the Katowice guidance, or the package, which was the Paris rules, are much more specific about what needs to be in those NDCs. So in the first round, and even in the second round of NDCs, countries were still sort of trying to understand and clarify for all what should be included. But now there is more clarity around that. And so what we see from the global stocktake and what we learn from the rules is that the next round of NDCs must be progressively more ambitious, must include all greenhouse gases, all economic sectors, and all categories according to the Katowice rules. That the NDCs must align with the Paris temperature target or goal of preventing more more than 1.5 degree temperature rise, and should include detailed and specific information that supports clarity, transparency, and understanding. And in our view, that means being very specific about what kinds of measures, what kinds of goals for each one of the greenhouse gases, each one of these pollutants that countries intend to address. The NDCs can include mitigation measures as well as adaptation measures, and be specific about where the financing for implementation of those measures should come from. In the guidance, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of today's session, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition with our partners and the discussions that we've had with scientists, we have 4 very strong recommendations about what we believe all NDCs should include in order to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. All NDCs should include economy-wide targets that address both carbon dioxide and the non-CO₂ pollutants across all relevant sectors for each country. The NDCs should also integrate air quality planning and climate strategies. And the Clean Air Fund's presentation will, I am sure, convince you of why it is so important to integrate those air quality considerations. Additionally, what we strongly recommend is that countries look at all of the related global, regional, and national strategies that have incidence on these different pollutants. So, for example, the Montreal Protocol that protects the ozone layer and now addresses climate change. It's an outside agreement, but the measures and implementation within that agreement can help each one of the countries, each one of you, to implement HFC reductions and include that in the NDC. So that kind of a comprehensive, holistic approach is what will help with implementation and success in the long run. And then finally, the importance of comprehensive reporting on all of the non-CO₂ pollutants, as well as reporting on carbon dioxide, is critical. And in the guidance, we have lots of detail and recommendations about how to do that. Many of you know that the biennial transparency reports are due this year for the first time, and that's a steep climb for many countries. And so that reporting is critical to the achievement of the current NDCs and also to setting up the next NDCs for success. I won't go into too much detail on this, but just to give a little bit of a sense, in the guidance, we integrate and show how reporting, data collection, information gathering, and the involvement of a wide array of stakeholders is critical to not only creating strong NDCs, but ensuring their implementability and their bankability. So the ability to access financing to implement those pledges. I'm going to share just a few of the country experiences from CCAC's support of our member countries. And if any one of you is from a country that is not yet a member of the CCAC, I just want to let you know that CCAC is a coalition. It's an open membership in the sense that any country can join, but we also have non-state members from non-governmental organizations, international institutions, and we work together as a coalition to achieve the goals of climate and clean air. Nigeria, with the support from CCAC, has included air quality and non-CO₂ pollutants in their previous NDC because they recognize the benefits to human health of taking this integrated approach. Micronesia, another CCAC member, says that the next round of NDCs will determine the survival of many of the most vulnerable people and species on Earth, and including the non-CO₂ superpollutants is a life-saving ingredient that all NDCs must have if we're to stand a chance. Colombia, another beneficiary of CCAC support for their NDCs, has a very integrated strategy of including non-CO₂ approaches to strengthen their NDCs, and they point out how those also have great benefits to helping Colombia reach their sustainable development goals. Here's another 4 countries. Well, again, Colombia, but also Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Pakistan have, as a result of the work that we've done together, included very specific measures in their previous NDCs. So, for example, Côte d'Ivoire's NDC notes that by reducing air pollution or by addressing air pollutant mitigation, they intended to avoid 7,000 premature deaths. So they're capturing the benefits and not just the adaptation benefits, but the health benefits, and highlighting those in their NDC. And Ghana, for example, has had a commitment to implement 19 policy actions around the non-CO₂ pollutants in order to reduce, and they even quantify the amount that they intended to reduce in the previous NDC. And we know that we have heard and are working with Ghana to have an even stronger NDC for the next round. So I'm going to pause here and welcome, hopefully, our guest from Cambodia. I did not see him earlier in the session before we began, and I'm looking through the list of participants. Unfortunately, I don't see him. If you'll bear with me just 1 second, I'll check in and see if he's able to join. Maybe something has come up and it's made it impossible for him to join us today. I'm sorry for that. If I do see him come in later.
Hi, Anna.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I don't see you on the screen, and so I've missed you. Apologies for that.
Actually, I'm not Mr. Kevon Watana. He's in another urgent meeting now, and he just called me last minute to join the call this morning. So I am Chaipo. I'm a coordinator for CCAC coordinator for Cambodia. So on his behalf, so I would like to present some information relating to what have been requested. I just would like to inform you that in Cambodia, the Department of Climate Change, who is in charge of preparation for NDC, as Mr. Kevon Watana, he's Deputy Director General at Environmental Protection. So another department. So he's not involved in the preparation of NDC, and however, we have prepared some information. So I would like to share screen if possible.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chaipor. Can you please share your screen? Thanks.
Yep. Wait, please.
Do you see the link to share in the top right-hand corner?
Wait, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll wait. No rush.
Okay.
Well, Chaipor
No,
is
the share screen option is not activated yet.
okay, I think it's because I needed to have sent you special link
For me, okay.
For you to join. Let me put the link for you in let me see quickly. And what we can do, Chaipor, could you share your email?
It's okay now.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. I think BP, my colleague, came to the rescue. Thank you for that, BP.
Thanks.
Okay, Chaipor,
Yeah.
please share when you're ready.
Sorry,
While Chaipor is sharing his screen, I'll mention to those who are watching that he is a contact point, a national coordinator for the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, and many of our member countries have coordinators in country that help with providing technical assistance to countries on the different approaches for the non-CO₂ pollutants. And that can be everything from doing evaluations to supporting the preparation of project proposals that can then receive funding from CCAC to help countries with their process. So that's a little bit about his role. He can tell you a little bit more. Chaipor, are you able to share?
I'm trying to share, but it seems there's technical problem at my side, so I could not make it.
Okay, let's do this instead. I have a short video that's about 5 minutes from the actually, you know, what we can do is if I can please ask Arindam to start his presentation. And Chaipur, could you please send me your email address in the chat, and then I'll send you an email. And if you can send me the presentation, I can share it in my screen.
That's good idea, Anna. Thank you. I will send you email because I am CC your email correspondent with Mr. Watana also. No worry. I will send you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Arindam, I turn it over to you. Arindam Roy from the Clean Air Fund is a climate change specialist, and he will present on the work that CAF, sometimes called CAF, Clean Air Fund, is doing, as well as give us more detail about the linkages between climate and clean air. Arindam, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Anna Maria. Let me share my screen real quick, and please let me know if you can see my screen, my slides. Is that visible?
Yep, we see him.
Okay, hi. Thanks a lot. I'm Arindam Roy. I work as a climate science advisor at Clean Air Fund. And I'm here to present why tackle climate change and air pollution together. So for those who do not know Clean Air Fund, a very brief introduction about Clean Air Fund is it's a philanthropic organization that supports partners to create a future where everybody breathes clean air. So it's essentially a re-grantor organizations. We work with fund and partners organization across the globe to promote air quality data, build public demand for clean air, and drive actions. We also support decision maker to act on clean air pollution for climate and health benefit. And this is our major. This is one of our major objective, that any clean air action should have both climate and health benefit directly. These are the kind of program that we support. We recently have acquired a multi-million-dollar program to tackle black carbon emission globally. I will talk about that a little bit in a little bit details in a few minutes. So moving to my next slide now. We know the impact of air pollution is huge. At present, 8.1 million deaths globally, and many and compared to the other risk factors such as tuberculosis, HIV, malaria, ambient air pollution is the highest among them, and it's the second leading risk factor for death, according to a recent study. And then there are deaths among the children under 5 years, which link to air pollution, represent 15% of all global death of the children under 5. And these deaths are majorly concentrated in the lower and middle income countries and disadvantaged community. So addressing air pollution is a way to address the equity. And also air pollution has a direct role in the global crop loss from air pollutants like ozone, PM2.5 and NOx that can directly impact plant growth and leading to crop damage and crop losses. Now, moving to the economic impact of air pollutions definitely reduce. It's associated with 6.1% reduction of global GDP and some trillion in annual global health costs. So I don't want to go into too much of the details of the numbers, but it's one thing that has been calculated recently, that the financial value of health benefit from clean air alone would exceed the cost of meeting Paris Agreement. So whatever the economic benefit of air pollution is, that is way far efficient enough to meet the Paris Agreement cost. And this is the importance of air pollution, addressing air pollution at the core. Also, there is another statistic I would like to highlight: 8 gigaton of CO2 equivalent per year. That's a maximal capacity of air pollution to mitigate CO2 equivalent as well. Just to give you some numbers about that, 8 gigaton it's approximately 1/4 to 1/5 of the emission from the entire globe annually in CO2 equivalent. And that is a huge number. So we can address like 20% or 25% of the CO2 emission globally through air pollution. So why air pollution and climate change are so interlinked? And to address that, there are a couple of things we are going to discuss. One is shared source. As you can see from this image, like air pollution and climate change both have very similar source profile, like both are from fossil fuel, biomass burning, fugitive emission, and natural emissions. So essentially that leads to sectors like power, energy, transport, residential, agriculture, waste, and industry. I think these are the very common sector they shared between CO2 or any other greenhouse gases and air pollutants as well. So shared source is one of the major reasons we should tackle air pollution and climate change simultaneously. The second reason is shared pollutants. So if you see this particular image, you will find at the left, there are pollutants that contributes by that are majorly air pollutants. And then at the right, there are pollutants, mostly greenhouse gases responsible for climate change. So on the air quality sides, we have non-methane VOCs, we have carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, ammonia, sulfur dioxide. And on the right sides, we have carbon dioxide, methane, and HFCs, N2O. Those are climate pollutants or greenhouse gases. And at the intersection of both two, there are these specific pollutants like black carbon, like tropospheric ozone, like sulfur, sulfate, nitrate, and particulate matter. These we are calling as a super pollutant to some extent. And this is a combination. They are both considered as air pollutants, and they have played a major role in climate change, as from the previous presentations by Anna Maria. There are atmospheric chemical relationship between each of these pollutants, and it's very intricate. So it can be seen very easily how these shared pollutants between air quality and climate change have a dual benefit if we can address them in terms of air quality reduction and climate change mitigations. The most importantly, these are the super pollutants among this list: methane, black carbon, tropospheric ozone, HFCs, and nitrous oxide. And we are going to talk a little bit about, so between these shared sources and shared pollutants, it means that for every level, for policies, for sectors, for fuels, for peoples and planets, these are incredibly linked. These air pollutions and climate change, in terms of source, in terms of their chemical nature, they are very much well linked. And that this is one of the reasons why we should tackle them together. So recently we have received a $13 million for the next 3 years to work on black carbon mitigation globally. And why black carbon is important. Black carbon is a part of PM 2.5, so it's a particulate in nature. It's black in color, and there are multiple sources like indoor cooking. There are transport, wildfire. All of these can generate a significant amount of black carbon. Now, the important part of black carbon is near the climate tipping point. So what are the tipping points? The tipping points are basically the geographical or weather or climate related phenomenon that if we pass that, there is no point of return. So just to give you an example, if all the ice in the Arctic has melted, even though if we reduce the temperature afterwards, the Arctic Circle or the Arctic ice caps, they will not be gained after that. So it's a point of no return if that pass. And there are several climate tipping points like Indian monsoon, like South Asian monsoon. That's another climate tipping point, like Amazon. That's a climate tipping point. And of course, the cryosphere, the Himalayas and the Andes and the Arctic Circle, these are climate tipping points. And black carbon plays a major role in that tipping point. So black carbon absorbs heat and then also can deposit in the ice through changing their color. It perturbs the radiation it absorbs. So by doing so black carbon emitting from different source, in the atmosphere, they're absorbing radiation, increasing the local temperature. Black carbon then deposit in the ice, increase more radiations and melt the ice. And there has been studies showing that the retreat of the Himalayan glaciers are accelerated by 50% due to black carbon warming and snow darkening, also an effect by black carbon. It's also have a feedback effect on Indian monsoon, changing precipitations, countries relying on, so that is addressing countries' food security through black carbon. That is also a very important aspect. It has been shown that black carbon can causes flood. Black carbon can causes drought depending on the region of emissions. And there has been multiple examples in the Asia and Africa where black carbon perturbed precipitations, and that leads to a massive change in the downstream population depending on the precipitation for agriculture and other purposes. Black carbon significantly influence regional warming as well, particularly in the Arctic, in the Tibetan Plateau, in the Himalayan cryosphere. It's estimated for the Arctic, its impact is 3 times more potent than CO2. So that is one of the reasons we are addressing black carbon in the first place, because these tipping points, they have very limited timeline. So, Himalayas, Arctic circles, and these Indian monsoon, once this is crossed, there is point of no return. We cannot do anything. So we need to act now. And hereby we are addressing black carbon in the specific regions where it hurts the climate most. Navigating the relationship between air pollution and climate change, they are mutually reinforcing. What does that mean? That if we address climate change mitigation, it can help to reduce air pollution. And at the same time, clean air can also mitigate climate change. So, clean air policies can address our climate change. The climate change mitigation can help to reduce air pollution. So it's a very, very tight relationship between them. The major driver of climate change, like burning fossil fuel, it's a major contributor of air pollution as well. And as per the source and the pollutants are the same, the solutions are also the same. So renewable energy, electric mobility, more active transport. So these are some of the things that we need to consider, because in terms of the solutions, because the solutions are very much similar when we are going to address air quality and climate change. So one of the reasons we are addressing black carbon is it's the highest warming potential in a particular region. So what does that means is addressing black carbon in specific regions for specific sectors that will address climate change, that will reduce the impact of the tipping point risk, and as well as that will gain a lot of health and economic benefit as well. So in many places, and this is why this is important, that air pollution is seen to be a local issue, but because of the similar source, because of the similar pollutants, and of course the similar solution, this might be a more palatable route, air pollution, to address climate change. So it's easier to attract higher ambition from politicians across the political spectrum and the benefits seen within the political terms. So addressing air quality can be a very easy route to address climate change, especially through super pollutants. That's what we are aiming for. And for the conclusion, I think it's the joint of actions on climate pollutants and air pollutants are faster, cheaper, and fairer. There are framework exist separately for climate change and air pollutions in most of the countries, but many countries, through addressing super pollutants, they have a more integrated framework to address air quality and climate change. When we are addressing them together, air quality could generate a huge amount of health benefit, climate benefit, and also in terms of economic benefit. It will address climate change through the mitigations, through more and green economy, sustainable economy, and also adaptations, because air pollutants like black carbon, like ozone, they have direct influence on precipitations, crop growth, ecosystem health. And so it would address the issue of climate change adaptations as well. Reducing super pollutant emissions like black carbon is critical for near-term warming and avoid harmful impact on human health. And that's why the integrating black carbon and air pollution in the NDC, it shows increased ambitions while cleaning the air, achieving local health and economic benefit. Thanks a lot. I'd love to answer any questions, any follow-up questions. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Anna Maria.
Thank you so much, Arindam. That was an excellent presentation. It's so clear and interesting, and really highlights and spotlights the importance of this integrated approach, because on the one hand of all of the potential damages of not addressing these pollutants, but then the flip side, the positive side of that, is all of the benefits that can be achieved by including these approaches in the NDCs. That was wonderful. I do encourage participants to write their questions in the chat if they would like to, or we'll have a little bit of Q&A time at the end. But now I would like to come back to Chaipur, who sent me his presentation on behalf of Mr. K. von Watana from Cambodia. So I will share the screen. And Chaipur, I invite you to just be very frank and let me know when you're ready for me to change the slide. I think you should be able to see your first slide up there now.
Yep. Anna, thank you very much for that, and sorry for technical issue from Cambodian side. Hello, good morning again, colleagues. There's a good opportunity for Cambodia as I mentioned, on behalf of Mr. Kai von Watana. He's a Deputy Director General, and he also the CCAC focal point for Cambodia. So yes, he has engaged in urgent meeting with Director General. So he would like me to present very briefly because several just few slides for that the Cambodian intervention. So I would like to inform the engagement with development partner from Cambodia side, for example, like Cambodian participate with UNFCCC in 1916, and also Cambodia adopt and ratify the Paris Agreement, and with the first NDC of Cambodia submitted in 2015, and the update one was last last few years, sorry. And also Cambodia has participated in several convention and treaty. And for example, here I would like to address some, for example, Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol, and Cambodia has ratified on the 27th of June 2021, and the other 4 amendments like London, Copenhagen, Montreal, and Beijing Amendment, January 2007. But for Kigali Amendment, Cambodia has ratified last 3 years on 8th April. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, within that Cambodia prepared 2 main plan for to comply with the Montreal Protocol or Paris Agreement or other convention like HPMP, phase out management plan, and Kigali. For HPMP, Cambodia prepared since 2010, and so far Cambodia has reached the target of a reduction of 60.7 by 2025, but now it's 2024. Cambodia have reached their target already. And for KIP, the Kigali Implementation Plan, Cambodia has prepared already, and it's under the implementation. And within that plan, the Cambodia is committed to reduce HFC 10% by 2029, and it's equal to 125,000 tons of CO2 equivalent from our Cambodian baseline, more than 1 million ton of CO2 equivalent. Next slide, please. Yeah, regarding to the non-CO2 pollutant and air pollution into the country NDC, as I mentioned, Mr. Watana is not involved with NDC, but he has prepared some information. For short-lived climate pollutant SLCPs, mainly black carbon, methane, and HFC, is a priority for Cambodia, and it will be integrated into a new NDC, and that's to showcase the Cambodian ambition to GMP and Kigali Amendment. It's not only the SRCP, but as in the slide, NO2, CO, VOC, and SO2 also will be considered and to integrate it into the new NDC. And the main sector for air pollution and non-CO2 in Cambodia from energy sector, AFLU, transport, waste, and other related sector. MOE also has issued some policy regulation, including the reduction measure to air pollution and non-CO₂, and all these policy and regulations are now in the implementation plan. And for example, the sub-degree on air quality, noise, and disturbance. Also, the circular number 1 on measure to prevent and reduce ambient air pollution, and the other regulation at the next slide. I think that the last slide for me today. For example, the Cambodia National Environment Strategy and Action Plan, Cambodia updated NDC, Cambodia long-term strategy for carbon neutrality, and climate change strategic plan. And the last one is the clean air plan of Cambodia, which was supported by CCAC and UNEP. Within that context, I would like to inform you that, as I mentioned earlier, Cambodia, especially Mr. Watana is not directly involved, but Department of Climate Change, who is in charge of preparation for NDC, and as we communicate with them, all non-CO₂ pollutant will be submitted to Minister for information and approval to include into NDC, as Cambodia, especially Ministry of Environment, before even or implementation of any activity, we have to have a principally approved from Minister first. Then we can start doing something as planned. Otherwise, we will not be allowed to do that. So DCC, who's in charge of NDC, and he will also participate in NDC 3.0 regional forum in Asia next 2 weeks in Bangkok. So he will come back to prepare a letter to submit to a minister for information and approval. This is what we have communicated with them last few days for the issue. I think that's all from Cambodia side, and on behalf of Mr. Watana, and thank you, Anna and colleagues, for the great opportunity for Cambodia to participate in this critical webinar, and we will share with you the other important information later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaipor, for sharing the Cambodian experience. And I think it really illustrates very well the third principle recommendation that I mentioned earlier in my presentation, the importance of integrating related and supportive policies, whether they be national, regional, and we saw the variety of national policies that Cambodia is taking into consideration in their approach, and you shared with us the internal process. But you also talked about the Montreal Protocol and the other treaties and agreements that are also related, and how those are part of the bigger vision around the NDCs. So thank you for sharing that. That was really interesting. Thank you also for reminding us about the regional NDC forums that are happening in regions around the world, and the Asia forum that will happen, I think, as you mentioned, in a week or two in Bangkok. So hopefully those who are here know about those forums, and if not, you may want to check on the internet. The CCAC and UNEP and the UNFCCC and the NDC partnership are all involved in the preparation the forum. So I think in order to keep us on track, I'm going to share with everyone via via email as part of the webinar the presentation by the NDC partnership, and I'll move ahead now and tell you about how the CCAC's support for the guidance and support for the including non-CO₂ pollutants in your NDC, how that works and how you can access it. So let me quickly share the final part of the presentation here. 1 minute, I may be in the wrong presentation. Give me 1 second, please. So many presentations. Okay. And here we go. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for your patience. So the CCAC is very pleased to have launched a 5-part series of guidance to help countries to include non-CO₂ and air quality in their upcoming NDC. In 2019, CCAC produced its initial guidance that was a detailed explanation of why countries should do this. And this series is the how-to, getting into the specific process, approaches, and resources that countries can tap into in order to really get detailed inclusion of the non-CO₂ pollutants in their upcoming NDC. And what we've seen in the previous NDCs is that countries will sometimes reference some of the pollutants, but without specific goals or specific measures that they intend to take. And so that is the opportunity of the upcoming. And Arindam, in the earlier presentation, we talked about what the benefits of including those pollutants in the NDC. So I'll just swoop over this, reminding us all of the averted near-term warming, also strengthening ambition and building upon the COP28 outcomes. And in that, global stocktake countries specifically said that non-CO₂ pollutants must be a part of upcoming strategies and NDCs, but also bringing fast solutions as well as local development, health, and environmental benefits to countries, and generating a strong return on investment because of all of the economic savings, not only from avoiding the climate impacts, but from avoiding all of the impacts on health that Anandam that he explained to us in his presentation so well. The 5 chapters include an introduction that is an overview of the non-CO₂ approaches, and we also get into the enhanced transparency framework and how to begin from early stages of preparing and designing the NDC to gather information and get everything that you'll need for later reporting that's required under the Paris Agreement. The other 4 chapters are there's one on black carbon and air quality. That one we just released yesterday to the world. There's a chapter on methane that includes a very clear focus on the different sectors that produce methane. And the 3rd chapter is our chapter on cooling that addresses the hydrofluorocarbons as well as the energy efficiency opportunities in the cooling sector. And the 4th chapter is on nitrous oxide. Here's a quick view of those 5 chapters. And the QR code at the bottom will take you directly to the web page on CCAC's website where you can download each one of those chapters. Our primary audience for the guidance are national climate policymakers, those teams that are working on preparing the NDCs, but also designated experts who will be involved in revising and enhancing and also implementing NDCs. National stakeholders like youth, indigenous communities, scientists, academics are also part of our audience because they will be impacted, whether they're influencing the development of the NDC or whether they're helping to carry out the implementation. Any of those stakeholders are important to involve in early stages of NDC preparation and therefore are part of our target audience. And of course, the institutions that are supporting countries along the way. Some of those might be the UN institutions like UNDP and UNEP, as well as consulting firms or other institutions. The guidance will take you through the early stages of information collection and assessment, looking at the current NDC and evaluating it for what is the state of play at the national level currently, and then moving to the next step of considering outputs and designing new content for NDC 3.0. But the cycle continues because NDC 3.0 will take us to 4.0 and 5.0 and into the future. And so consideration of implementation and then accounting and tracking progress through the enhanced transparency framework, the biennial transparency reporting required under the Paris Agreement, and the other processes that will bring us back to again the next stage of collection and assessment towards the next NDCs into the future. So it's a cycle that builds towards our success in the future. Some principles that we recommend is that including non-CO₂ pollutants should be additional to action on CO₂ and any previous actions on non-CO₂. It should be comprehensive, in other words, looking at all of the sources of emissions in a country across all sectors and including all that bigger picture into the economy-wide target. Implementation oriented, so including time-bound targets, policies and actions, and approaches to financing and technical assistance. And you'll see that CCAC will help in the guidance and in our complementary support to countries to make sure that implementation is within reach. We strongly encourage countries to be ambitious and to go to the maximum technologically feasible reductions, because those are the ones that will keep us within that Paris temperature limit of 1.5 C. And also to think collaboratively across government institutions, across all ministries, as well as regional collaboration and collaboration with all sectors of civil society and the private sector. So CCAC has produced this guidance package, but it's part of a bigger strategy to support countries in addressing the non-CO₂ pollutants. That this strategy includes technical assistance as well as scientific and technical reporting, and all of those together and our evolving support to countries are part of this the bigger strategy. And here I show how the NDC guidance helps turn those the wheels, and those wheels also turn the guidance to support the strengthening of your NDCs. In addition to the scientific and technical analysis, sectoral approaches to the non-CO₂ pollutants, and support for implementation, and I'll talk in a moment about what that support looks like, CCAC also supports coalition building by working with high-level decision makers in political forums. We have a ministerial meeting that will take place next week with all of the ministers of the government membership of CCAC, and then those with building on those political cooperations and collaborations, we support countries as they bring their voice to other forums such as the UNFCCC, Montreal Protocol, and into initiatives as well as such as the Global Methane Pledge, and one that we're looking forward to seeing at COP29 in Azerbaijan to address methane from organic waste. A little bit about the resources that CCAC provides, and Cambodia talked a little bit about the support that they've received, but CCAC members can solicit support for projects that help with planning of NDCs, but also other national planning and capacity building. There's support for sectoral mitigation, as well as technical support for national experts that can contribute to institutional strengthening. And here you see in the bottom row the levels of funding that the CCAC provides to countries as well as to organizations to help with each one of these approaches. If you go to our website, you can browse some of the projects as well as the reports that we have produced in the past, all addressing the different aspects of the non-CO₂ pollutants and air quality. And you'll find that there's a lot there to inspire you, particularly if you are looking to maybe develop a project of your own. And here I will wrap up by sharing an additional QR code. If you go to this QR code, or when you get the presentation, you click on the link, it will take you to CCAC's main NDC support page, where you can access all of the resources that I've talked about in this presentation. So we hope that the guidance is useful to you, and we look forward to getting your feedback on it. It's been a very interesting and detailed process working with other partners as well on these different chapters, and the Clean Air Fund was one of the main contributors to the chapter on clean air, and I know that the work that they're doing supporting countries will definitely help build upon the work in the chapter in that guidance. So now I'd like to open the floor, see if there are any questions or comments from the remaining participants with us today. I see that there may be some questions in the chat. I don't know off the top of my head the national coordinator for Malawi, but Mazanga, I will look into that, and we'll try to send you a message. If you go to the CCAC's website and send us an email also, then we can make sure that you get a direct response, and we can put you in touch with the national coordinator. Any other questions from the audience today? If not, I again thank you for the time that you've spent with us today. We hope that this webinar has been useful to you, and especially that that the guidance on including non-CO₂ pollutants in your NDCs is helpful to you as you work on enhancing the NDCs in countries. Please feel free to reach out to any one of us who has presented today, or to reach out directly to the CCAC for additional questions or support. And we look forward to seeing you and working with you in the future. I will ask if my colleague Nathan Borgford-Panel has any concluding words or anything that he'd like to add before we say goodbye. Nathan, anything from your side?
No, just thanking you, Anna Maria, for the incredible work and leadership that you've shown to help us get to this point. This guidance is a labor of love. It builds on over 15 years of experience in the CCAC, but really is an incredible update to our previous guidance, and I do hope that everybody profits from it. I think one thing that wasn't mentioned, though, is that we are in the process of translating these. I don't know if you mentioned that in the beginning, but we will be translating these into multiple UN languages, at least French, Spanish, and Arabic. But if we get requests for other UN languages, we will be happy to explore how we can translate those as well. And we're trying to do that with all due haste, because we know that this is an issue that countries are grappling with right now. And so we will get those to country partners as quickly as we can. But again, thank you very much, everyone who participated, and Anna Maria, to you in particular, for your leadership on this.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I do look forward to working with any and all of you. The translations should be helpful, and we also intend on doing follow-up webinars to do a deeper dive into each one of those chapters, especially on the different categories of pollutants, to help teams to work through those parts of their NDC. So keep an eye out for those. Please feel free to share the webinar recording with any of your colleagues and friends. And again, thank you for coming, and thanks for being a part of this event today. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, Anne Albert. It's nice to see you.